Hello ladies and gents. Today I want to talk about the most obscure characters in the Super Smash Bros. Series. This crazy Nintendo brawler is essentially a celebration of video games, and as such, characters from all different kinds of series have joined the ongoing battle. But which ones could we say are the most obscure fighters of the bunch? To figure this out, I collected the available sales data for each character's primary games to see just how well their titles reached an audience. After all, with low game sales, there are far less people that are going to be familiar with the characters starring in them. I did make a couple rules for this though. I only counted games where the character had a major role. That basically means they had to play a significant part in the game, like being one of the main characters in the story or being a playable character. If it was just a small cameo or something, I didn't count the title as part of their final number. Re-releases and ports will also be added onto the final total, if there's any data available for them. Also, for obvious reasons, I'm not adding Smash Bros. Sales numbers to their final tally. This is more so looking at how many people have experienced these characters in their native series of console or handheld games. And keep in mind, this is based on the worldwide sales data publicly available, which means certain mobile games and digital releases may not come into the equation. I'm just working with what I could find. Anyway, I plucked out the 10 most obscure characters in the roster. We'll start at the bottom and work our way up. Let's do it. Believe it or not, this Fire Emblem Lord was a very obscure pick, especially back during Melee's release. Marth currently has 5 titles under his belt where he plays an important role, with 2 of them being remakes. The total sales number came out to approximately 2.9 million. Marth may be popular among Smash Bros. Fans, but few outside of Japan are familiar with the character's true origins. Marth's original Famicom title was Japan exclusive until just recently, with a limited time digital release on Nintendo Switch. This was the same title that was remade for the Nintendo DS, which was unfortunately met with fairly poor sales, which is probably why the second remake on DS reverted back to being Japan exclusive. If it weren't for Smash Bros., I reckon far fewer people would know of this prince at all. Being one of the more modern reps in Smash Bros., it's no surprise to see Min Min make this list. This noodle-armed fighter currently only has one major game to speak of, which was released during the early months of the Switch's life. For being a new IP, ARMS actually did quite well, with approximately 2.4 million sales to speak of. It's hard to say if Smash Bros. Helped boost her home game sales by a significant amount, especially since Min Min wasn't among Ultimate's base roster. Regardless, it's nice to see a more recent Nintendo IP get some representation in Smash. Following up is another character, or characters, from the Switch era. Pira and Mithra technically only have one game to speak of, being Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Although this game did have a major expansion titled Torna, the Golden Country, which was essentially a game of its own, and even had a separate physical release. So I guess we could say they have 1.5 titles? Anyway, their sales data totaled up to approximately 2.2 million, which is pretty impressive for a Xenoblade title, especially when digital sales aren't even a part of the equation. These characters have become far more popular after landing into the Smash Bros. Fandom, and as a massive Xenoblade Chronicles 2 fan myself, it couldn't make me happier. Hopefully this only spells more good things for the series' future. Castlevania may be a popular name among gamers, but in all reality, the individual titles of this series aren't very big sellers, with many of them falling below 1 million. It's for that reason Richter makes this list. Richter has 6 major titles to speak of, with Rondo of Blood and its remakes making up half of that number. But even with 6 games, sales landed at approximately 2.18 million. I would imagine the number would be a decent amount larger if there were more digital sales numbers available. But even still, it's a bit disappointing that such a great series never truly got the recognition it deserves. I'll be honest and say I had no idea who the Ice Climbers were before they joined Smash, which shouldn't come as a surprise, as these two have never exactly been a household name. Technically, this bouncy duo has had only one main title, fittingly called Ice Climber, which was released way back on the NES in 1985. Although a slightly different version had originally appeared in arcades shortly before their home console debut. Their NES title has been ported countless times to a variety of platforms, and currently sits at approximately 1.85 million sales. If you're curious to check out the origin of Nana and Popo, you can currently play Ice Climber on the Switch, as long as you have access to Nintendo's NES Online service. Or you can even purchase the original arcade version in the Switch eShop. Fair warning though, these games are pretty tough. Kid Icarus seems like one of those niche series that would obviously make this list, and yet it's only Dark Pit that manages to squeeze in. That's because, unlike Pit and Palutena, Dark Pit only has one real title on his resume, which is, of course, Kid Icarus Uprising on the Nintendo 3DS. This unique game only sold around 1.35 million copies, which is a bummer considering how great it is. Its high-quality gameplay shouldn't come as a surprise though, seeing as Masahiro Sakurai was the director of this Kid Icarus revival. I know I probably don't have to say this, but this is the same man who has directed every Smash Bros. Title. Dark Pit may seem like a weird choice to represent the franchise, but he actually played a very pivotal role in Uprising. And since he makes perfect sense as an Echo Fighter of Pit, it was probably an easy inclusion to decide on.
He'll be your escort out of this life.
Many Nintendo fans are familiar with Ness as a character, and even the game he originates from, Earthbound, or Mother 2 if you're from Japan. But this is something that could definitely be referred to as a cult classic, and sales numbers help back that up. Ness's adventure only sold about 1.27 million, and while occasional virtual console releases have undoubtedly helped the game's popularity over the years, it's safe to say this game will continue to remain a gem of Nintendo's past. Surely a release of this game on the Switch's Super Nintendo app would help spread the love, no? Actually, nah, let's just play some freaking Jelly Boy, the true hidden gem of the SNES era. Who am I kidding? Just give us Earthbound, Nintendo. Fire Emblem may be a popular Nintendo IP now, but back in the old days, it was anything but. In fact, it was straight up struggling hard at times. It's safe to say Ike is a fan favorite among many veteran Fire Emblem players, but despite being featured in two main titles across the GameCube and Wii, the total sales number landed just barely above 1 million. Like I said, the struggle was definitely real. To make matters worse, these games have never been re-released in any form. If you want to own these games, you'll have to pay a pretty penny on eBay. And let's be real, most people either can't afford or don't want to pay these high prices. Much like Marth, it's safe to say Ike's popularity would be far less if it weren't for being a part of the Smash Bros. Roster. With Ness making the list, it was inevitable that Lucas would too. This little guy with blonde Jimmy Neutron hair comes from a single game called Mother 3, the follow-up to Mother 2, aka Earthbound, to those of us in America. To the detriment of Earthbound fans everywhere, Mother 3 has remained a Japan-exclusive title since its original Game Boy Advance release, which pushed a mere 400,000 or so copies. It's impossible to say how well the game would have sold in other regions, but despite all of this, the game still has yet to fade away completely. Fans of the Earthbound series are very passionate and have continued to beg for this game's localization for years upon years. I mean, this game launched back in 2006, and Earthbound fans are still talking about it. Now that's dedication. They've even created a translation of their own, but some people simply want an official release from Nintendo themselves. And who's to blame them? But until then, this title and its main character will remain a very obscure part of Nintendo's history. Topping off the list is Roy. No, not that Roy. This Roy. Yet another Fire Emblem character. And is it really a surprise? I did mention how this series has struggled, right? Roy has only had one main title, being the Japan exclusive Fire Emblem The Binding Blade for Game Boy Advance. Wait, Game Boy Advance, Japan exclusive? I guess Lucas and Roy have a lot in common. Roy's game only did a little worse, selling around 390,000 copies. Something that makes his original inclusion in Melee quite strange is that he made his appearance in Smash Bros. Before his own game was released. So I guess you could say Smash was perhaps a small way to advertise the upcoming Fire Emblem game. And that's what makes the game's Japan exclusive nature even more confusing to me. The first Fire Emblem we got here in America was Fire Emblem. It didn't include Marth at all, and only featured Roy in a very tiny cameo at the end of the game. So what gives? Wouldn't The Binding Blade have made a perfect first release for other regions? Whatever the reason might have been, it didn't happen. Hopefully more of these old Japan exclusive Fire Emblem games get localized releases someday, similar to what they did for the first NES title on the Switch. I know I'd like to give Roy's adventure a shot. And I guess that's part of the beauty of Smash Bros. Sometimes more obscure characters get added to the roster that not as many players are aware of, and it can help connect you to a game or series you might end up falling in love with, something that you may have never heard of otherwise. Marth and Roy's inclusion in Melee is what inevitably led to future Fire Emblem titles being localized. Who's to say where the series would be now without Smash? So if there are characters you dig in Smash but haven't played their games, maybe try giving a look beyond the battlefield and have a go at their own series. You're bound to find something great. Well, I think that's a good way to wrap things up. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you again soon. Catch you later.